Beautiful Thursday, November 16th, 2023. Michael, Don, and Peter with you until 6:30. A lot of stuff to do, a lot of stuff to talk about. Now, we were not on the air. ENN was over when it was officially announced that Gerrit Cole was the Cy Young Award winner, and he was unanimous. He got all 30 first-place votes. So good for him. He had a tremendous, tremendous season from the very first game to the very last game. Took the ball every single time he's supposed to. Gave them over 200 innings, which is a big benchmark for pitchers now. But it did make me think this one thing, guys. Gerrit Cole had really an historic sort of season and won the Cy Young. Last year, Aaron Judge did have an historic season with 62 home runs and won the MVP. Both years the Yankees didn't win. Now, obviously in 2022, they did get to the ALCS and they got swept. This year, they finished 82-80 and they didn't even make the playoffs. So I was on the show podcast yesterday with Joel Sherman of the Post and John Heyman of the Post. And Joel is not one of those that's a proponent to doing heavy-duty lifting and adding people and spending a lot of money on this Yankee team, because he said that there's so many things wrong with it, that's not going to fix it, and it would not be doing the right thing for the long-term future. But I wanted to get your guys' take on this. I disagreed with him because what I said was, this is the best of Cole and Judge you're going to get. Now, Cole's 33 years old. Judge is 31. So if you sit back and you let this cook and simmer like a stew, they're going to be out of their prime. You're not going to have the same players, and then they become part of the problem rather than part of the solution. Right now, they're part of the solution, and that's why you pretty much have to go for it. You have to go, spend money, make trades, and make it happen. Otherwise, you are wasting two of the greatest players of this era.
Yeah, because it kind of reminds me before they won in 2009 of having Alex Rodriguez, where he's winning all these MVPs and nobody cared because they weren't winning the championship, because that's the mission statement. But the difference is, Michael, during the A-Rod tenure, they were going to the playoffs every year. They were winning the division pretty much every year. They were making runs to the World Series. And now you're missing the playoffs. I mean, Michael, if not for a little spurt at the end of the year, this team would have finished in dead last and had finished under 500 for the first time in 3 decades. So, yeah, I'm with you. I get it doesn't always solve all of the problems. Money doesn't fix everything. Just ask the San Diego Padres last year. But you only have Cole for a finite amount of time. Aaron Judge is over 30. So do you want to look back at this era of, boy, what if? What if we could have won with these guys? Because let's face it, Michael, the fans, they probably were rooting for Cole to win the Cy Young, and they're happy he won the Cy Young. That's not what it's all about for these fans. It's about Cole helping them win a championship, not Cole winning a bunch of Cy Youngs while he's here.
You know, it's interesting. We all, all three of us took the calls. Yankee fans down on Cole. Oh, he's not good. He doesn't have sticky stuff anymore. Well, he was checked every game this year, and he was unbelievable. And he's one of the best pitchers the Yankees have ever had. Ever. That's not hyperbole, everybody. He's one of the best pitchers they've ever had. Now, the one thing missing on his mantle, obviously, is a World Series. We'll see if he ever gets that. Now, I would give the Yankees credit, Don. I don't think they are of the opinion of Joel Sherman, where they're going to, we've got a lot of stuff wrong. Let's slow-foot it. I think they are going to make changes. Now, one of the stories that came out today that kind of scratched my head a little bit is that the Yankees have had discussions with the Tampa Bay Rays about Manuel Margot. He was a good player. And that's about it. He's a good player. Doesn't have power. Hurt all the time. Played just over 100 games last year. He signed to a contract and then a mutual option after that. And the contract's very fair. He's right-handed. Now, I know the Yankees need a left fielder and a center fielder, but I think in the perfect world, you get left-handed hitters for both of those positions. Mm-hmm. But if you get Manuel Margot, and I would always be very, 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 very wary of trading with the Tampa Bay Rays. Nah, I don't want to go there. They're smarter than everybody. If they're trading this guy to a division opponent, there's something up. Now, Yankees haven't made the deal yet, and maybe the Yankees see something in him that they could unleash, but take a look at his numbers. they're kind of pedestrian.
Yeah.
Now, when he came up the IL last year, Don, he put up really good numbers. Then he ended up going 1 for 6 when they got swept in the wild card series. But that's not a guy I'm moving heaven and earth or really sending big prospects out to Tampa Bay. That would scare me that Tampa Bay is going to possibly trade him to the Yankees. I'd say no thanks.
Yeah, that's weird in division, right? But I guess sometimes you're forced to make decisions when you're a small market team that you don't necessarily want to make. You know, Snell left Tampa and he won a Cy Young Award. So it's not like these guys can't be good elsewhere. But why are you going, I don't want to say bargain basement, but why are you trying to outsmart everybody and just line up for the big guns? Well, maybe the reason for that, Michael, is unlike 20 years ago, you've got competition. You mentioned it. If Soto's going to get dealt, and we're not really sure when or if he's going to get dealt, but if he gets dealt, Michael, there could be as many as 8 teams bidding for his services. Back in the day, there might be 2. Same thing with the big money that they might throw at Yamamoto. This could be really interesting down the stretch with the Mets and the Yankees both bidding for him. And back in the day, the Yankees would get anything they wanted because at some point, all the other teams would say, when, and the Yankees would say, no, all right, well, we'll keep offering more and more money. Well, now you got another team in the market that actually might be able to outbid you on him if they want to, if they don't care about the luxury tax. So there's a lot more competition for the big guns than there were 20 years ago when the Yankees always seemed to get who they wanted. So are they settling for Margot because they realize that going big game hunting might come up empty?
I think he's a fallback. I can't believe that he's on the front burner. And then there's also a report today out that the Mets are interested in him. Now, I don't know if Tampa Bay is trying to drum up a market and getting New York fans excited, or if the Yankees and the Mets might have, like, preliminary interest, and they're thinking, well, if they're both interested, maybe one of them will act on it. Again, I would tread very, very carefully if I was going to make a trade with the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm not saying that they're going to rook you, and as you said, Snell ended up leaving, but they traded Snell out of the league.
Right.
And the reason they traded Snell was to save money. Now, obviously, they want to save the $11 million on Margot, but he's a .264 hitter with 4 home runs and 38 ribbies. On base, 310. 311 at bats. So I look at that, and I'm going, I think you could spend your $11 million better. And Tampa Bay's probably thinking that as well. So let them trade him somewhere else. Because if he was all that, Tampa Bay knows the Yankees finished out of the playoffs. So now Tampa Bay, Baltimore, and Toronto, they want to keep the Yankees out of the mix. Those 3 teams made the playoffs. If you make the Yankees better, one of the teams is going to drop out of the playoffs. So that's not the guy I think I go for. Maybe they do. Maybe I'll have to recalibrate and take a deeper dive. But when I saw the story this morning, I start to look at his stats. I go, and he is a decent player, but again, you're getting an injury-prone player. Isn't that what we're trying to avoid?
Well, that's the problem always, is when you can't use injuries as an excuse when you acquire players that are injury-prone or injured when you acquire them. But I'm sure that, listen, just like always, whenever there's a trade, get the Yankees involved. The Yankee name out there just seems to spark. So I don't know how real this is. Is this just to try to get the Mets or some other team in the National League to give up more money because they think, oh, the Yankees are going to want to make a splash. We're going to have to go up against them. So let's include the Yankees. Well, I don't know how real any of that is. But that's not a needle mover, Michael. And with all the names that are getting thrown out there, I'm not sure Bellinger's a needle mover at this point.
No, I think
he would be because he's a left-handed hitter. But with Soto being thrown out there, I mean, if that's all that you come back with, I could see Yankee fans being disappointed.
I personally think they are not going to get Bellinger because I think the price is going to be sky high. And remember, you have Aaron Judge at $40 million, and you have Gerrit Cole at $36. I know all Yankee fans are rolling. They were all the Yankees print money. They have a budget, so they can't have like 4. And they also have Giancarlo Stanton, it's about $26 million. So I think Bellinger is going to be $25 to $30 million a year. My personal thought is they're going to add Kevin Kiermaier to play center field. Sign him to a 1-year deal. This way, you keep the gate open for Jason Dominguez when he's ready. But if you bring in Bellinger, well, Bellinger can also play first. So the offshoot of that is you take Bellinger and you move him to first base. When Rizzo's done next year, that's when his contract's up, and then you can slide Dominguez in. But there's a lot of ways to work it. But do you want to spend the money on Soto, or do you want to spend the money on Bellinger? And with Soto, not only money, but you've got to give up prospects. It'll be very interesting to see what the market is for Bellinger. He had an unbelievable year with the Cubs. 307, 26 homers, 97 ribbies. But if you look at his previous 2 years, you could say they were injuries that caused it. The Dodgers didn't even tender him an offer to keep him. Total free. Yankees should have tried last year, but totally free. Now, is this year what he is, or the MVP that he won with the Dodgers, or the 2 years previous? And then if you do a deep dive into his numbers, Bellinger, soft hit, didn't have the exit velocity of others, which a lot of analytic teams look at, and he had a very high BABIP, which means that luck was on his side. Batting average on balls put in play. So were those numbers just the fortune of having a great, lucky year, or has he turned the corner back to when he was the MVP with the Dodgers? So I don't know. I don't know the Yankees thinking on him. The profile is perfect, Don. Left-handed batter, can play center at a high level, can play first base at a high level, runs the bases beautifully when he's healthy. But we know what happened with health last year with the Yankees, so not something I think you make a deep dive into right away.
Well, I just feel like this entire offseason is contingent on the Yankees getting back up. And I hear on the other shows, I see on social media, the Yankees got to make a splash. They're a big market team. They got tons of money. They got to get Yamamoto. They got to get Soto. They can't get outbid. They got to throw their hat in the ring for Ohtani and have Ohtani say, I don't want to come here, rather than being outbid for Ohtani. Oh, great. But then you throw out budget. So what are they? Are they the team that's going to expand their payroll to $300 million when Hal said you don't need to have $300 million? So I sometimes think the fans believe, oh, we went 82-80. We're going to go spend big. We're going to do what we did in 2009, and we're going to go get Teixeira. We're going to get whatever we need to get over the top. But there's other competition for these players. Some of these owners are out of their mind. The Texas Rangers are going to be throwing their money all over the place, too. You know, nobody was thinking about the Texas Rangers 20 years ago until they got A-Rod. But even then, when they got A-Rod, they were quick to try to get rid of him because they couldn't afford him. Now, all of a sudden, they're won a World Series. They're a big money player. You know, you've got other markets, too. The Mets, I'm sure that Cohen's going to be throwing a lot of money around after completely wet in the bed last year. So what is it, Michael? Is it the old school Yankees, they're going to make big splashes, or are they going to be what they've been recently, and that's trying to be strategic, working on a budget, and trying to think they're outsmarting everybody? That's why this Margot thing would have me scared if I'm a Yankee fan. Is this more the direction they're thinking than going big game hunting?
Well, I think it might be smart on their part, because maybe they go big game hunting, and if they miss on it, they've got a fallback plan. But it doesn't seem like a real sexy move. But it's just a rumor at this point. We thought we'd address it. Let's go to the phone, see what you think. Joe in MetLife started off today on the show. What's up, Joey?
Good afternoon, boss. Mike, very excellent show. I met you one time in person. Congratulations to Gerrit Cole for the Cy Young. But I feel bad for Aaron Judge and him. I don't see the Yankees winning a World Series within the next 5 years.
How come?
Honestly, and I want to see these guys win a World Series. Aaron Judge and Gerrit Cole deserves one.
Why do you not see that? I mean, we don't know what deals they're going to make.
Yeah, listen, I'll be honest with you. A lot of people can't play in New York. They can't play, you know, and I mean, I really feel bad for them. In 5 years, their prime's done. They're in their prime right now. Judge deserves a ring. Cole deserves a ring. Right or wrong?
Oh, I mean, they're the type of players that obviously they want to be on championship teams, but they've got to be part of the solution, and they've got to drive themselves to even greater heights, which is impossible from MVP to Cy Young. But I guess they're going to have to do it again, and the Yankees are going to have to build up around them. That's why I truly believe you can't just sit back and let some of the mistakes come off the payroll and let it breathe. You can't let it breathe. You cannot let their primes fritter away on a team that's not going to make the playoffs or have a chance to win a championship. You can't. And I don't think the Yankees will. Because no matter what you say about getting swept by the Astros, they were still one of the final 4 teams standing 2 seasons ago.
And also, it's a different world, guys, too. I mean, back in the day, yeah, the Yankees would outspend. The Yankees would not have very much competition for free agents or salary dumps, but they also had a division where they only had to worry about the Red Sox. Now, the Rays keep losing players. They're still very competitive. Baltimore looks like they're going to be good for a while here. It's not crazy to think that eventually the Blue Jays figure it out. I mean, it's crazy, Michael, the level of competition that you're facing here. There's a lot of good teams, and a lot of them have money, too, that can actually get better. The Rays are the one team that always seems to figure it out without doing that. But are the Orioles going to start to become players as they stay good? You know, the Red Sox are eventually going to come back into it. The Blue Jays throw a lot of money around, and they're still good in a playoff team. There's a lot of competition. So I don't agree with the caller. They're not going to win the next 5 years. But even if they go out and upgrade, Michael, there's still a lot of competition there and in the American League. There's a lot of major players.
No, I mean, and a lot of teams have money. They do. The Cubs, I mean, they spend $8 million a year on a manager. They're in on Ohtani. So they're in on everybody. If they're in on Ohtani, they're looking at a $50 million expenditure. So you're not the only big wallet in the room anymore. Let's go to Lee in New Jersey. Lee.
Hi, guys. I think, as long as the kids can bounce back, there's some upside here on the Yankees. And I know Rodon was horrible this year. We can't expect him to go out there and be just as bad this year. I mean, he's going to have to come back and bounce back a little bit. I think if the kids develop and Rodon can come back and bounce back and even be, I don't want to even say great, but a serviceable major league pitcher, there's some hope here if they add a bat or two, especially from the left side.
Now, I agree with you about Rodon, but I'm curiously of your thinking, what kids are you talking about?
Well, Peraza, I think, needs to show a lot more, and I think Volpe needs to be a lot more consistent at the plate as well. He feels like he hits everything to left field. If he can start hitting the ball the other way, I think he'll be a much better, much more consistent hitter. And, it frustrates me to see guys from other teams. Brian mentioned it in his press conference, that they go out and they go play better for other teams. I almost wonder if that's a development issue with the Yankees or a coaching issue with the Yankees. If they can get that straightened out, who knows? Look at it.
Yeah, but you know what? I would push back on that. One guy who did well after he left is Sonny Gray. He finished second last night in the Cy Young. But I think that was a case of being out of New York. And also the Yankees wanted him to pitch a certain way. He wanted to pitch another way. And the Twins allowed him to do that. But what other players have really excelled since they left the Yankees? So, I mean, a lot of the young guys they traded to the A's in those deals for Montas and for Trevino, they're not great players. So I don't think the Yankees make a lot of mistakes like that where they trade players. The reason that Sonny Gray was traded couldn't perform here. If somebody else hasn't performed, then, well, okay. But in terms of the young kids, I think natural progression and maturation, I think Anthony Volpe could hit 260, 270. He's already won a Gold Glove. I think Peraza, if he's going to be anything, has to be playing every day. He's not a utility guy. So either you trade Gleyber Torres for one of the pieces that you're missing and put Peraza in at second, or you haven't played third base all the time. I don't think, though, that he profiles as a third baseman power-wise. Austin Wells, I think, is going to have a chance. Everson Pereira didn't play well. Oswaldo Cabrera didn't play well. I think he's better than what he showed, but I don't know, other than Volpe and Peraza, are there any needle movers there? Let's go to Mike in West Caldwell.
Yeah, I want to agree with Joe the last couple callers ago. The Yankees are not going to win in the next 5 years. I'm going to tell you something. It's not a sexy destination anymore, guys. You don't need New York for commercials. You can make money anywhere selling stuff. It's you got to put up with all their rules, no beards. You look at all these guys that leave here. They're looser. They're happy. They're smiling. Everybody's holding on too tight. Look in that dugout. It looks like you're in the principal's office half the time. And I'm telling you another thing. That Hal is a dud of all time. Ownership is not at its best. And this guy's a 100% dud. So, listen, these guys can go make money other places and not have to be under this.
I don't know. What does this mean? Joe, Mike, what does Hal is 100% dud mean?
He's a dud owner, and he's never gonna. He's not running this team. I don't believe the way
But Hal's running.
Do it like his father.
But his father.
Listen, come on, look at the guy.
His father brought in the guy. His father brought in the guy who's running the team. What do you mean? Hal's not making these decisions.
That's right. Then get out of the way and then let somebody else.
He's out of the way.
But Mike,
he's not Jerry Jones. What are you talking about?
Mike. He spent the second most money of any owner in baseball. What do you mean he's a dud? I don't get it. He happens to have a great personality. When he's on the show with us, he's amazing. He might be loyal, if that's what you're thinking.
Because he's not. Because he's listen, let's face it. New York needs guys on Broadway. The father was a showman. That's what this town
So you just
needs.
want personality. You're judging personality. That's
Mike,
it.
do you realize that when George I was in the building, Mike, when George Steinbrenner got suspended that night. The crowd was chanting and cheering. Yeah, I mean, everything is revisionist history. Yes, he was overall a great owner since he bought the team in '73, transformed the Yankees back to greatness. But there were bad things, too. All the constant managerial changes. They didn't win in the 1980s. I mean, Hal Steinbrenner's done a great job as a steward of this franchise. Just because he doesn't fire people the way his father does, a lot of people were ripping people, ripping his father for doing that.
So, but I think Mike was on to something. Then he lost me with the whole Hal thing because, believe me, you take a look at who's the owner of the Texas Rangers. Is he out there? Does anybody know his personality? Or do you just go because you want to go play for a good baseball team, or you like the fact that there's no state tax, or they throw a ton of money at you? But I do think there's something to the fact that are the Yankees still sexy to a lot of young players because they haven't won just one championship in the last 20 years. There is a perception that would shave the beard, that it's very buttoned up, and maybe they want to go someplace where there could be a little bit more fun. Go to a market where there isn't so much stress like there is in New York, where the mandate is championship or bust. Like, is there a generation of fans, Michael, that don't look at the interlocking NY the way that we did when we were growing up, or a certain generation did? That I can buy into, that the Yankees now seem like everybody else over the last 20 years, and because of the state tax, because of the pressure in New York and how buttoned up the organization is, maybe it's not the sexiest place for a free agent to go.
Well, the thing that I would co-sign on, and I say this with all New York teams, it's not the place you have to be to have your star.
Yes.
I mean, LeBron James became a global icon in Cleveland. Peyton Manning became a global icon playing for Indianapolis. You don't need to be on Broadway to be a Broadway person. So I think that's the thing. In terms of not sexy, I mean, another thing is a lot of teams can afford this kind of money now. George used to be able to outspend everybody because the Yankees had more money than everybody. Now a lot of teams have money. And one other thing that's a big thing, and I've been saying this over and over and over again, there's an advantage of playing in New York. But you know what the difference is between playing in Texas and playing in Florida as opposed to playing in New York? 25% more tax. Do the math. If you make $1 million, $250,000 goes to the government. It doesn't go to the government in Florida and Texas. If you think that's insignificant to somebody making $30 million a year, you're wrong. It is significant. And I think that somehow sports has to get his mind and wrap around it that there's some kind of equalizing factor like they used to do with Toronto and the exchange rate. Because now the exchange rate of taxes, it gives a team like the Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros a great advantage. Now, the Rays and the Marlins don't have that advantage, so they don't have money. So they're not willing to offer the same kind of money. But other teams do. The Miami Heat could. The Miami Dolphins could. It does matter. If you don't think it does, then you don't realize how much money matters to these guys. And it should. That's how they earn their living. 1-800-919-3776. We got a lot of stuff to do. I hope everybody's up for it, because I am. But first, Peter's going to tell us about FanDuel.
The Michael Kay Show.